some words from Don Charles, the trainer of Daniel Dubois, and he had this to say. He said it cost a lot of money to facilitate the camp for sparring partners, hotels, etc. He is out of pocket, said Charles. The next move remains unclear, but a potential rematch with Alexander Usyk with the gold medal emoji is on the horizon, pending the WBO approval. And let me counterpunch. This seems like a cleanup. That standard protocol. If he was going to fight, if he was preparing to fight, that's what he has to do. That's the name of the game. You have to take care of your sparring partners, the hotels, the accommodations for those sparring partners, and the training team. Okay, that's just normal. That's standard protocol. So him saying that Daniel Dubois' next move remains unclear pending the WBO approval, but a potential fight with Alexander Usyk is on the horizon. What that tells me is you guys are just hoping for the best possible situation and it's up to the WBO. But you can't say that it's unclear. Your potential fight is very clear. You know exactly what you want to do. There's no other fight that you're talking about besides Alexander Usyk. You're talking about fighting Usyk in a rematch for all the belts since Daniel Dubois has the IBF. Okay, so you're just waiting for the WBO approval. If that happens, okay, he's fighting Alexander Usyk. And I think Don Charles, he likes to talk. He's very passionate, but I still think that if it's unclear, why aren't there any other options? You see what I mean? When you say unclear, that means you don't know what you're going to do. Versus, hey, but a potential fight with Alexander Usyk is on the horizon. I mean, you should say that's the fight that we're hoping to make. You know what I mean? And I know what potential means, but at the same time, that's the only option that you've gave us. The fight with Alexander Usyk. See, if it's unclear, you would say, well, if the WBO doesn't rule in our favor, we would then go where? Joseph Parker again, or whoever the mandatory will be. And I don't know if there is a mandatory, right? Some other opponent should be named if you don't have a clear path to what you're going to do. So I still think it's just cleanup talk. I still think him saying he's losing money is a way to claim that Daniel Dubois got out of things. Now, is it relevant? Maybe. Because he did spend a lot of money. And I think, it's a gamble. If you thought, well, hey, my fighter can't fight, so guess what? The best possible outcome, let's just go right to Usyk. That's what everybody wants to do. All those fighters, McCauley, Parker, Caballero, all of those guys want shots, and Anthony Joshua, you could have named him for an opponent, but you didn't. So you just went right for who you want to fight or who's in place or planning to fight. Since Alexander Usyk already said that, hey, I want to fight Daniel Dubois again to get my belt back so I can become double undisputed. That's just simple. And I think the way he tries to word things, it's clever, but then you could kind of see right through it. Like, hey, yeah, you spent money, but that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to spend money, bringing everybody in to prepare for Daniel Dubois. And I think the truth of the matter is, with Daniel, with whatever state he was in, they didn't feel comfortable with him beating Joseph Parker. They just didn't. They didn't think that Joseph Parker, was to take lightly to put Daniel Dubois in there. Because if so, they would have did so, but they didn't. And I think that's something that they're leaving out. And if they said that, they're like, look, Joseph Parker's a game opponent. We wouldn't dare go in there with someone that prepared and had those 5 straight wins under his belt like that. We wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? And I know it's all about Daniel and his well-being, and I respect that. But at the same time, it's the way you word things. It's like, well, hey, we lost the money. I mean, you should have lost money, but you knew you were going to make that money back, plus about 4 or 5 million plus fighting Alexander Usyk, because that's the fight he wanted anyway. Because remember, he was back. If we backdate this and we look at what he did before, he wasn't even talking about Parker. So that's another issue. So since he wasn't really talking about Parker and focusing and talking about Parker. He was study with, hey, I want my revenge, Usyk. And then I get sick, then, hey, let's just do this only one fight with Usyk. That just doesn't seem right with me. That's the only problem. But it could all be true, but it could all be bullshit too. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it. Yeah, he lost money, but at the same time, we're not supposed to feel sorry about that because you pulled out, or you and Stan Dubois pulled Daniel out. That doesn't mean anything. Those are the stipulations of the decisions that you made. And that's what you're going to have to eat. But you guys tell me what you think of Don Charles stating that, hey, we lost a lot of money and we don't know what's going on, but a potential fight with Alexander Usyk is on the horizon. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunching.